Hello and welcome to today's episode, in which I try and bust the myth that nut roast is disgusting. Veganism and vegetarianism are quite synonymous with nut roasts. As soon as you say, oh, I'm vegan or veggie, people are like, does that mean all you can eat is nut roast? And it does have a bad reputation. So I thought I'm going to try and create something that's delicious because on paper, the ingredients are all very tasty. So combine them together with some other tasty bits. I think I can create something amazing. And then I'm also going to show you how to make a nice sauce to go on the side of it. For those who didn't know, I had COVID 3 weeks ago. I'm still in recovery. And then last night I went out for my friend's 40th birthday. We did karaoke. And I've done way too much. I'm having to put myself on a slight vocal rest. If you can hear me, I'm a bit creaky and husky. So I've done most of the prep. So all that's left to do is just to kind of combine everything together, put it in the oven. So yeah, I've done most of the hard work, just so I wasn't having to talk quite as much. If you want to make sure you don't miss out on any of the plant-based recipes that I publish each week, make sure you like this video and then subscribe to the channel. If you tap the little bell icon, that way you'll be alerted as soon as a new one's published. I'm going to start on the sauce for that, because that can be roasting away in the background while I prep the rest of the nut roast. I'm going to use the air fryer for this, just for ease, just so I don't have to stand over a pan. The sauce is going to be plum, red onion and red wine. Initially I thought I would roast the onions in the air fryer and then simmer everything in the pan, but I've just decided I'm going to roast the plums as well, just to bring out some of the flavour. I also roasted veg for the nut roast itself, so I'm just going to use that same paper because I'll have a little bit of flavour on there, and why waste it? Got a punnet of plums here. I haven't yet decided how many of them I'm going to use, and I'll just do it until I get bored. You could also do a similar kind of sauce using berries. I've done that in the past with brambles, boysenberries, raspberries, that kind of thing. I'm going to go with quite deep umami flavours in the nut roast. So I think having a kind of zingy, vibrant sauce should go really nicely with it. That's all 8 of the plums chopped in. I did leave the stones in there because I think, I could be wrong, but I think the stones have got lots of pectin in them, which is like a gelling agent. So that's going to add a bit of body to the sauce. I sliced the onions into wedges, like 6 wedges per onion, 2 I think it was. And I rolled them in a bit of olive oil, some salt and pepper. So I'm going to try and get things into a single layer if I can. What I'm hoping is that roasting everything is going to give a bit of caramelization, which will add a bit of flavour, but it's also going to soften things down nicely, so then I can push that through the sieve. Okay, let's pop that in the air fryer. The air fryer is at 160C, which is around 320, 325 Fahrenheit. It depends which chart you look at. They all vary a little bit. And I've got it on for 7 minutes, and I'll probably mix things through a bit and then go another 7 minutes and just take it in small chunks like that. Now it's just a case of assembling all of the nut roast ingredients that I've already prepared. I've wrote down measurements and everything so I can give those as I'm putting things in. So start with 200 grams of brown bread, but it's probably around 4 cups. I cut the crusts off and then shredded the crust down and then did the inside. I don't know what you call that bit, the softer bit, because I'm hoping that way there'll be a nice little variety in texture. Irregularity is probably going to be a really good thing in here. This is the roast veg that I did. This is what I did in the air fryer. So this was 2 onions, 3 stalks of celery, a leek and 5 cloves of garlic. For the onions, I split them in half, peeled them and then did a medium dice on those. The celery, trimmed off the top, split that into 3 lengthways and then dice that down. The leek, trimmed it, give it a rinse, split it lengthways into 4 and then shredded that down. The garlic, I peeled those and then just did a kind of small-ish dice. I thought I had carrots in the house and then once I got going I suddenly realised I don't. So if you do have carrots, put some in. I would do, depending on the size of them, if you've got carrots that are kind of so big, maybe do 2 of those, something like that. I just covered everything in olive oil, salt and pepper, tossed everything together, did it in the air fryer. I did 10 minutes at 180, stirred it halfway through, then 5 minutes at 170. Then I added the garlic in, because if you put the garlic in from the beginning it's going to burn really quickly, and did another 10 minutes at 160. And just keep moving things every 5 minutes or so. Tumble the veg in, and really you can put anything in here. Some celeriac would probably be really nice. I found this bag of cooked buckwheat groats in the freezer. Initially I was going to use pui lentils, cook some of those off, but then I was rummaging in the freezer and found these, so I thought, well, that'll be a nice bit of protein in there. Air fryer's just gone off, so we'll have a look at that. Not a massive change in appearance at this point. So I'll just give it a bit of a wiggle around. And just try and push things back into a single layer. Back to the mixture. 45 grams of barberries, probably half a cup. If you've been with the channel for a while, you've seen me use these quite a bit. They've got like a kind of lemony vibe to them, the little dried berries. Use cranberries in place of these, that's absolutely fine. And because they're quite small, the texture doesn't bother me the way it does with some bigger dried fruits. This was a 300 gram pack of chestnut mushrooms. So I just gave them a wipe on paper towel to get any muck off them and then tore them up just by hand, but you can do it with a knife if you want. And then put that into the air fryer with a drizzle of olive oil and some salt and pepper. I roasted those for 15 minutes at 165, stirred it halfway through, and that roasts them up really nicely and kind of dries them out a little bit as well. I've got 8 black olives that I finally chopped down. I wanted more, but I don't have any more in the house, but use maybe 15, 20. And then I've got the all important nuts here. So this is a combination of 180 grams of chestnuts, roast chestnuts that come vacuum packed. Then there was 150 grams of walnuts and 100 grams of Brazil nuts. And I just chop those down. Again, there's some big bits, there's some very fine bits, just to give plenty of variety and texture. In fact, I'm just going to mix this a little bit, and that'll decrease the size somewhat. Okay, so it's made a little bit more room. Chuck the nuts in. So now let's mix that up a little bit. Then I can start adding in the flavour and the binder. I mean, this is already smelling divine. The air fryer's got 2 minutes left on it, so I think I'm going to wait to add anything else into here until I've mixed that. While we're waiting, I'll show you what I'm going to cook mine in. I've got these individual little loaf tins that I'm going to do at least most of the mixture in. These are little half pound tins. It's for baking little loaves of bread. So I'm going to pack the mixture in, and then with some of them I'm going to cover the top in foil and then just put it in the freezer, and then I can defrost one at a time and cook it off as I need them. So it's starting to soften up. Yeah, so I think I'll do another 7 minutes at 165. I'm going to create a little bit of a wet mixture because I want to add things like Marmite and treacle, but they can be a bit difficult to mix in. So I'm going to pop some in a jug with some boiling water, and then that way it'll just be a bit easier to disperse it fully into the mixture. Doing a half teaspoon of Marmite, which is yeast extract, and a half teaspoon of black treacle. You could use molasses as well, that's fine. Marmite's going to give a really nice deep umami flavour to it, and the treacle's got lots of depth, a mild sweetness, also a little bit of tangy iron kind of flavour that I think is going to work really nicely with the nuts and the mushrooms. I'm going to do a half teaspoon of this Superior Dark soy sauce. I don't know how well it'll pick up on camera, but it's thick, or thicker than a regular soy sauce. It's got quite a deep flavour, but it's not necessarily saltier than regular soy sauce. So I'll do like half a teaspoon of that. And then because there's salt on the veg and the mushrooms, I'm not going to add any extra salt into here. I've got a jar of mixed herbs. I'm going to do about a tablespoon, something like that. Feel free to use fresh as well. I'm just a bit tired. So then I'm just adding enough liquid just to kind of thin everything down. Get stuff off my spoons. Good mix together. I'm going to use some beef flavour stock powder in mine. You can also use chicken flavour or just vegetable stock. We'll do a tablespoon. I'll add the liquid in, then check the flavour, and then I can add the egg in. So I'm just going to squidge the stock mixture through a little bit. Add in the liquid. Give that a squidging. This is holding together really nicely already. That's great. But I think if you try to cook it just like this, I've got a feeling it would just fall apart rather than holding a shape. So I'm going to check the flavour. I'm doing it at this stage before adding the egg, just because that's got stuff in it that, you know, you don't necessarily want to eat raw. Oh yeah, that's exactly the profile I was going for. It's nice and deep, savoury, not too salty though. Plums are all soft. The onion's nice and soft. I might do another 5 minutes just to get a little bit more colour in places. But I'm going to go 160 just to develop that roasty flavour a bit more. For the binder, I'm going to use some of this Oggs. It's like a vegan egg substitute. I've still got some left over from making the potato croquettes the other day, so I might as well use more of the bottle. I'm going to gloop some in, give it a squidge, and then I can see if it needs any more. If you don't have this, or Just Egg is the US equivalent, you can use a chia seed egg or a flax egg. I'll pop a couple of links in the description for you where you can see how to make them. Blurb some in, that's probably the equivalent of like 2 eggs, something like that. Work that in. What I want to happen is everything holds its shape so it doesn't crumble apart. I think I'll do the same quantity again. So I've probably done like 5 tablespoons. Yeah, I think that's looking pretty good. Oh, I was going to put seeds in here, wasn't I? I'm going to add in these seeds. This is an omega-3 seed mix. So it's got pumpkin seeds, sunflower, flax and sesame. Possibly overkill in a nut roast, but it's my nut roast and I'll do what I want to. Might not do all of that quantity. Do half to start with. Yeah, I'm going to put the lot in. The air fryer is just finished, so I'm going to start the sauce and then I can come back and fill my tins. There's everything looking exactly how I wanted, a little bit golden in places. Transfer all of that into a saucepan. These plums are very sour, so I'm going to add a little bit of port in there as well as the red wine. So I'm going to do 100 mils of port, 200 of red wine. This is a Malbec. And then I have got some fresh herbs. I'm going to pop in a few little fresh sage leaves. I'm going to take the tip of some rosemary stalks. I've got 2 of those. I don't know if this is the case, but in my head, the tips are probably going to be milder in flavour than the rest of the stalk. The onions already had salt and pepper on there, so I don't think I'm going to need to add any more at this stage, but we'll see. And then I'll put the lid on. I'm going to let this simmer away for a good 15 minutes or so, just to really develop the flavour. If you fancy the idea of doing a sauce with your nut roast, but you don't want any alcohol, I'll put some links in the description for you. I've made a few at this point, I can't remember exactly how many, but I have made some, and I'm sure I've done some alcohol-free ones, just to give you a few ideas. I did one with plum, maybe spring rolls, or something crunchy like a dumpling maybe. Anyway, I'll pop some links in the description, give you a few ideas. Or you can buy non-alcoholic red wine. I've seen that available. I really don't think I'm going to manage to get that amount of mixture into 6 of these little tins. So I thought initially, I could do a few as burgers or something like that. I bought a sausage gun to make some more vegan sausages for you, but I've got a feeling it's going to be quite a big video, so I've not had the energy yet. I reckon this mixture will be really nice as a sausage, so I think I'll put some in the freezer ready for when I do that video. It's one of these type of things. So you fill up the chamber, and it comes with variety of nozzles. I'm not going to open the packet because the kitchen's really humid, but I found some vegan sausage casings as well. Yeah, so I'll keep some of it back. And then we've got something else to play with. So we'll start packing the mixture into the roasting tins. Take a few spoonfuls. And then I'll work this amount in, and then I can fill the top of it up. I'm just trying to make sure I get into the corners, into the sides. So I'm using, it's kind of a downward push and then out to the sides like that. I don't know if that's the best way of doing it, but that's the way I'm doing it. I might actually have enough mixture. Depending on how much you eat, I think a tin like this would maybe get 2, enough for 2 people. But I could always cook them off and then just have slices, pop it on a sandwich, something like that. Try and level it off a little bit, because then it will be inverted. That's all I'll have it. These tubs are deceptive. I don't know if I'm going to have enough to do all 6 and keep some back for the sausages. I'll try and do 4, and then whatever remains that can be used for the sausages. I've got 4 tins packed in there, and then that's how much I've got left, which I reckon is going to be a good amount for 2 sausages. And I'm going to do one of these now for dinner, and I think I'll put one in the fridge, and then the other 2 I'll put in the freezer. So I'm just going to cover them with little foil lids. It's the first time I've written the date this year. I had to think about that. And for anyone in doubt, it's the 3rd of January 24 in England and the UK. Do day first, then month. And then what I'll do once I've put these in the freezer, once I've cooked this one, I'll write the cooking time on here. I'll pull them out of the freezer and write it on. So I'm just gonna have a look at the sauce. So everything is nice and soft. Can you see how the liquid looks kind of not thick, but it doesn't look as runny as the wine did going in? I think it's the stones, the pectin in the stones coming out, adding a little bit of thickener. But I'm going to probably thicken that a bit more as well and check the flavour. Might need a touch more sweetener. I'm going to put the little nut roast into the air fryer. I think I'm going to do 160 for 20 minutes and then I'll probably stick a probe in and see if that's done enough. If you're doing it in the oven, you want to go maybe 180. You'll have to kind of, what you don't want to happen is the top that cooks too quickly and becomes crusty before the inside is set. I've gone 155 just in case. I'm going to tip the sauce stuff into here and then pour it back into the pan through a sieve. That saucepan's got a non-stick coating on and I don't want to be touching the sieve because it's metal. I don't want that to touch. So I'm going to create little barriers, little buffers to put under the sieve. I'm going to carefully transfer everything into the jug. So it's these edges here I want to protect. So I'm just going to put these on and that'll provide a little bit of padding. Pour the ingredients back in. I find it's easier to do this with a metal spoon and we're just forcing everything through the sieve. As I see them, I'm going to pull the plum pits out. Might have been an idea to blend this first because the onions, although they are soft, they're not breaking down as much as I'd hoped. So I've about hit my limit with how much I can do with the sieve, so I'm just going to scrape that off. I think it should be fine. So make sure to scrape the bottom of your sieve because that's where all the thick, delicious stuff's going to be. The sauce is still quite tangy, so I'm going to add a little bit of golden syrup. This is going to depend on the sweetness of your plums, so don't necessarily put the sweetener in until you've tried it. If you can't get golden syrup, you could use something like agave nectar or just sugar. You could use maple syrup, but it is going to change the profile of the sauce a little bit because it's got that very distinctive flavour. I'm just going to do a little drizzle at a time. Whisk that in. Taste yours. It'll also depend on what kind of wine you used, what kind of port. And then I'm going to drop in some cubes of vegan butter, one at a time. This is going to make it extra glossy, nice and rich. This technique's called monte, which means to mount the sauce to finish it. And take this off the heat, put the lid on for a sec. So here it is out of the tin. Invert that. So here's the little nut roast, looking delicious. And honestly, the smells are fantastic. So let's cut a little slice into that. Ooh, yeah, that looks very tasty indeed. Okay, pour on a bit of sauce. That looks like a delicious plate of food to me. Texture's a little bit crumbly, but it's holding up for the most part. Let's dive in. That's amazing. Like each time I bite into it, I get something else. Flavor's really rich, deep umami, but it's not overwhelmingly salty or anything because there's different types of nuts and then there's the bread and the berries. Just really nice, interesting texture to bite on. So I can get a close up for you so you can get an idea of the textures. The sauce does add exactly what I hoped it would, which is that kind of zingy, mildly tangy, but very fresh kind of flavour to it. The outside has a crust on it, whereas the inside is softer, which is quite nice as a nice contrast. When I stuck the probe in at 20 minutes at 155, it was at 85 degrees C, 180 maybe Fahrenheit, something like that. When I looked on the little measurements there, I took it past the chicken, which is the highest one. If you wanted to get more of a consistent texture, probably go at like in the air fryer, 130 for maybe 45 minutes, something like that. You are still going to get the crust, there's no way of avoiding that. You could maybe pressure cook that, like in the Instant Pot or something like that, or steam it. That would give you more of an even texture without the crust on the outside because it's a wet heat. So there's several different ways of cooking something like that. It's a little bit meatloafy maybe, that kind of, feels very comforting. I have a memory of being a small child. My dad was left in charge of cooking for me. and he'd bought a knot roast from somewhere. I refused to eat it because I thought it was disgusting. Got sent to bed with no dinner. And the next day he apologised and said, after he went to bed I tried it and it was horrible. So vindication. But I think knot roast has got this really bad reputation. But that I could eat happily, day after day. I think it just comes down to what you put in it, really. If you're putting lots of bland things in, all you're going to get is a crunchy, bland bit of stuff. But if you start layering in different textures and different flavours, yeah, stunning. I'll put any notes and tips down in the pinned comment for you, so have a look down there. Keep your eye out for that sausage video. Be a month or so, maybe something like that. And I'll stuff that remainder in the sausages and we'll see what happens with that. I'll say a great big hi and thank you to my supporters over on Patreon. Really nice to have a little community that supports whatever I'm trying to do and listens to my musings week on week. If you want access to that, I'll pop the link down in the description for you as well. You'll get access to the film and TV chat that we've got going on. I share any craft projects, stuff that I'm working on, that kind of thing. Sometimes do recipe walkthroughs. If you'd like lots more plant-based food inspiration coming your way, like this video and then subscribe to the channel. Tap that bell if you want to be alerted as soon as a new video is published. And then while you're waiting for the next one, have a look at this.